Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this latest IMRG LinkedIn Live. I'm Andy Mulcahy, Strategy and Insight Director at IMRG. We're the trade body for online retail in the UK, so we benchmark lots and lots of data. Also very good at putting up very small Christmas trees and paper chains if you ever need any assistance. But what we're going to be looking at today is something that's very close to our heart actually at IMRG, which is sort of the customer funnel really. Which is the progress that visitors make across a website. So all the different pages that they would go to in their conversion journey, if you can call it that. So what we're looking at really is how you can improve some of those areas and optimize certain areas of it to get to the checkout. So we're going to cover a reasonable amount of ground. But to help me do that, Brad is from Remarkable Commerce. Excuse me, Brad, introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi everyone, thanks for joining. I'm Head of Product for Remarkable Commerce. For those unfamiliar with us, we are a incredibly customizable, highly scalable e-commerce platform used by loads of UK retailers. Typical turnover for those guys between 5 million up to 50. We've got a few sort of 100 to 200 million a year. My background is in product marketing and senior e-com roles, and nowadays, I spend my time leading Remarkable's product strategy and as a senior consultant for some of our larger clients as well.
Okay, excellent. So I mentioned there, looking at sort of a whole customer journey, if you like. Just get us kicked off. And where do you think, sort of, in a fairly general sense, where retailers can make the biggest difference to boosting the checkout?
Yeah, fair. Well, I mean, just off the bat, I think retailers invested a lot of time and money in optimizing customer journey, but the checkout itself needs specialist level of attention. And actually, it's often overlooked, and commonly optimizations and big changes are not even possible because of inflexible templated checkouts or platform related challenges. Now, if you want to make the biggest difference, that's often not the quickest solution. So Andy, if you're looking for the biggest win or the biggest difference, that's definitely not going to be the quickest win. So if you only had probably one project opportunity or one chance to do some optimization work around the checkout, I think the quickest difference you can make is probably putting more customers into the top of the funnel. Because if your checkout flow is the same, if it's kind of stays the same, you're going to have more customers at the end if you put more in the top. So really focusing your attention on add to bag, basket page optimizations, that's where you can make the quickest difference. But like I said, that's not always the biggest difference because, yeah, it's just the quickest. I think the biggest difference is going to be different for every retailer, though. The first thing I'd recommend is just focus on adding as much tracking as possible, because otherwise you're blind to the performance of your checkout. And then you can analyze the opportunities with your current flow before you start thinking of all the new fancy stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's dig into some of the detail there. You mentioned the add to basket, which is so product page usually, but not always. What can you do to boost that rate?
So most retailers track and report add to bag rate. Like you said, it's the percentage of customers who add product to their basket from a product page or a list page or elsewhere. Typically, that number fluctuates every single week quite vastly. It's normally not even in line with conversion rate. But typically retailers will look at that as a trend, an overall trend of add to bag rate over a certain period. In terms of particular tactics that you can do to improve conversion add to bag rate, there's a few that I really like. So the first one being a sticky add to bag. So if a customer scrolls past the call to action buttons on your product page, further down the page, have an area either at the base of the page or at the top that appears with those buttons already in it. And the idea is that from a customer's point of view, they're being reminded of that action, even if they've scrolled past where those buttons normally are on the page. The second one I'd say is urgency messaging has become more and more popular over the past few years. So things like, this item's in 25 other people's baskets, or this product has been viewed 140 times in the last few hours. Creating that sense of urgency and fear of missing out is really useful. But I guess do it sparingly, because the overuse of that tactic is actually off-putting for a lot of customers and they just don't believe it. So perhaps use it on just high margin products or only on products in sale, for example. So just be careful how often you use it. And then the other one that boost add to bag rate is displaying payment types on product page, and you can stack those. So if you've got Klarna, Lay-by, ClearPay, all the rest of them, make sure you're kind of stacking those, all the different solutions and propositions in place. So those are a few things to kind of, see how you get on with those, I guess.
And then let's just say that you managed to get people adding stuff to the basket. I think a much neglected page really is the basket review page, isn't it?
Mm.
You can do about that one.
Yeah. So once you add product to your basket, you've got, there's a lot of work still to be done. The average amount of people that continue to purchase after they've added to basket is something like 10%. So 9 out of 10 customers are adding to a basket, but then just abandoning for whatever reason. So there's a lot of work still to be done on the basket and onwards. My recommendation for basket is keep it as clean as possible and just ensure that key functionality is included. But from a UX and design point of view, just keep it really clean. So there's some functionality that I'd say is really important. So things like having the ability to move items between your basket, your wish list, and a save for later area. That's a really useful function because a lot of consumers will believe their basket is like a wish list. Essentially, they'll use it as such. So being able to differentiate between those different parts of the site and let a customer move items between them is a really good function from a behavior point of view. Other stuff like delivery options. So having the delivery options and delivery prices in line on the actual basket page is really important because you're not hiding detail from a customer. If you sell internationally, make sure you've got a kind of country drop down. And another really popular one and useful one is having the ability to change your product variations at basket. So if you add like a medium into your basket, on the basket page, have the ability to change that to a large if you want to, instead of having to go back into the product page. So there's some few things I guess that are quite good.
And then once we get them from there to the checkout, pretty big question really is how many stages there are on that, right? So what's the sort of benefits of we've got everything on a single page to there's multiple pages to get through the checkout?
Yeah. There's definitely been a trend over the past few years of moving towards a more one-page checkout. So instead of having 10, 15 stages and loads of different pages and panels, simplifying it as much as possible. And our clients have definitely reduced, generally speaking. Some of them still got quite long checkouts, but generally speaking, they reduced the amount of steps. I think it all depends on the customer type, the product type, and the product positioning. As a headless platform, and our clients all have kind of different variations of checkout, something we've seen really interesting is they all contradict each other. And that's simply because they're all different retailers. They've all got slightly different proposition. They've all got different products, different customers. So what works for one doesn't work for anyone else normally. We have clients that have got, a 10, 12 step checkout, and then some that are just one page, and they'll still convert exactly the same, but it's just interesting. Obviously, what you need to do if you were thinking about changing your checkout flow is just A/B test the hell out of it. So make sure that you're testing what you believe. So the difference between a one step and a one page and a multi-page is a one page are really quick to use, and they're probably best for a returning customer. So if I'm coming back to the site and my details are already known, there are some platforms that already kind of pre-fill a lot of that data. That's really slick as a checkout flow. But the downside of that, if you're a new customer coming onto the site, it's quite intimidating to see that many fields on one page. So actually, you're probably better off kind of slowing them down and taking them through a bit of a journey with a multi-page checkout. Obviously, the downside of a one page is that because everything is on one page, there's a lot of code on that page, which means it's quite efficient to load. Multi-page, obviously stronger because you're collecting data throughout multiple pages. And what we see is if you've got a longest checkout flow, a multi-page checkout flow, where you add your login perhaps on one page, further details on the next, billing details on the next, payment details on the next, confirmation page on the next. What happens is a customer tends to get further into that journey if they're a new customer compared to a one-page checkout. Even if they abandon, they're getting further into it. Therefore, it's good for data collection because you'll be able to get more data out of them throughout that multi-page checkout. So that just going back to it, depending on type of customer, type of proposition, depends really on which way you want to go. But having the flexibility is really important to make sure your tech can really adapt. I guess that's the key thing.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Actually, having you get more data through having a multi-stage. I hadn't really thought of that. But this is what we're talking about here. Is you've published some research recently, which is kind of looking at these different stages, and this is just a few sort of parts from it. Just kind of finish this off. Was there any other little bits that you wanted to chuck out about how to improve UX?
Yeah, I guess the most important thing in checkout from a consumer's point of view is confidence. They want to feel confident in purchasing, and they want to feel secure in doing it. So your checkout has to work really hard in instilling that confidence. So you want it as low friction and as smooth as possible, but also as confidence inspiring. So there's a few things you can do around that. Using confidence kind of reassurance tools. So there's things like shopping guarantee tools like Norton, Trusted Site, Safe Shopper, various others, badges that you can place around your site to instill confidence that you are reputable and that a consumer is safe in shopping. A more of a tactical one is changing some of the language you use on the site has actually quite a big impact. So instead of using things like there's an error, that's failed, there's a problem, that's invalid, they're quite discouraging negative words. So avoid those and try and explain problems clearly, as in how to resolve them, but don't use that negative language as much. Another good one I've seen have a great impact is the dynamic delivery dates. So instead of saying 2 to 4 day delivery and then a customer going, okay, well, it's Tuesday, so when's that going to be? Have dates in line on the page. So say Thursday to Sunday, Thursday to Saturday delivery. So that's 16th to the 18th of December, for example. Having those dates so a customer has to work less, that has a good impact as well. But there's loads of these that we've done. We're going to release a white paper in January with loads of them in it. So if anyone wants it before then, just give me a LinkedIn message and I'll send it over today if you want.
Yep, excellent. Well, thanks very much. So, as you can see, we've got quite a lot of knowledge on this type of stuff. So, if you wanted to reach out to Brad, then go for it. We know a bit of stuff about this as well, so we're always happy to talk to someone. But so there's some thoughts for you. But obviously, you've just got to experiment and work it out for yourself to a certain extent. So, thanks, Brad, for joining us today. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, Andy.